Good day, everyone. I am student teacher Jalfante, based in English from the University of Mindanao. Today, we're going to discuss about prose and types of prose. But before we proceed, we have first our objectives. At the end of the discussion, the students will be able to define what is prose, identify types of prose, appreciate the importance of prose and directivity, create a text under non-fictional prose. So I have here the warm-up activity. These two texts have the same meaning or message. All you need to do is to spot the differences of the two texts, how it is written. So you need to spot the difference of these two texts based on the structure, choice of words, and other differences. Okay? The first text is written in line and stanza, while the other one is written in sentences that form a paragraph. The first text is composed of artistic language to express thoughts and emotions, while the other one is composed of normal language pattern. So that's the differences of these two texts. Further, the first text include rhyme and rhythm, while the other one does not use rhyme and rhythm. For further discussion, we are going to understand what is the difference of that two types of text. So first, we're going to define what is prose. Prose is verbal or written language that follows the natural flow of speech. It is the most common form of writing, used in both fiction and non-fiction. Prose comes from the Latin prosa oratio, meaning straightforward. So we have types of prose: non-fictional prose, fictional prose, heroic prose, and prose poetry. For non-fictional prose, prose that is a true story or factual account of events or information is non-fictional prose. So we have here an example about non-fictional prose. Anne Frank's Diary of a Young Girl. So during October 20th, 1942, my hand's still shaking, though it's been 2 hours since we have the scare. The office staff stupidly forgot to warn us that the carpenter, or whatever he's called, was coming to fill the extinguishers. After working for about 15 minutes, he laid his hammer and some other tools in our bookcase, or so we thought, and banged on our door. We turned white with fear. Had he heard something after all, and did he now want to check out this mysterious-looking bookcase? It seemed so, since he kept knocking, pulling, pushing, and jerking on it. I was so scared. I nearly fainted at the thought of this total stranger managing to discover our wonderful hiding place. So this is an excerpt from the Anne Frank's Diary of a Young Girl. So this is an example of it factual events or true events. So Anne Frank's Diary of a Young Girl recounts the young teen's experience of hiding with her family in World War II. So Anne Frank died in the Holocaust during the German occupation in Netherlands. So we have another example of non-fictional prose. We have textbooks, newspaper articles, instructional manuals, biography, and diary. Now we're going to proceed to the fictional prose. Fictional prose, a literary work of fiction. This is the most popular type of literary prose used in novels and short stories, and generally has characters, plot, setting, and dialogue. So we have here the example of non-fictional prose. which is Frankenstein, written by English author Mary Shelley, tells the story of a monster created by a scientist and explores themes of life and death. So the story tells a story of Victor Frankenstein, a student of natural science who creates an artificial man from the pieces of corpse and brings his creature to life. So Frankenstein believes that by creating the monster, he can discover the secrets of life and that and learn how to renew life. So this story is merely fabricated and based on the author's creative imagination. So this is the perfect example of fictional prose. Another example is The Last Leaf is a short story by O. Henry. So The Last Leaf talks about a poor young woman who is seriously ill with pneumonia. She believes that when the tree on the wall outside her window loses all its leaves, she will also die. Her neighbor, Berman, an artist, paint a leaf on the wall. That painting saves her life. So another example of fictional prose. And then we have another example of fictional prose, the short story of Cinderella, Rapunzel, The Gift of Magi, and The Necklace. And then we're going to proceed to the heroic prose, a literary work that is either written down or preserved through oral tradition but is meant to be recited. Heroic prose is usually a legend or a fable. So we have here our very own epic story, the Agni Lamang. So it is a pre-Hispanic epic story of the Ilocano people of the Philippines. The story was handed down orally uh, for generations before it was written down around 1640 from Pedro Bucanig. So the story is about Lamang, the heroic journey of Lamang. So the story started when Don Juan and his wife Namungan lived in Nalbuan, now part of La Union in the northern part of the Philippines. They had a son named Lamang. So before Lamang was born, Don Juan went to the mountains in order to punish a group of their Egro enemies. While he was away, his son Lamang was born. He took for people to help Namungan give birth. As soon as the baby boy popped out, he spoke and asked that he be given the name Lamang. He also chose his godparents and asked where his father was. After 9 months of waiting for his father to return, Lamang decided he would go look for him. Namungan thought Lamang was up to the challenge, but she was sad to let him go. During his exhausting journey, he decided to rest for a while. He fell asleep and had a dream about his father's head being stuck on a pole by the eagle. Lamang was furious when he learned what had happened to his father. He rushed to their village and killed them all, except for one whom he let go so that he could tell other people about Lamang's greatness. So this is the example of heroic prose. Since Lamang's journey is the quest for his missing father, he take revenge for his father and defeated the enemies. So their enemies is the Egrot who forced them out of their land. So he turned back to his place with victory. We have another example of um, heroic prose, which is King Arthur. King Arthur was a British legendary warrior who led the defense of Britain against invaders. So King Arthur was a British legendary warrior who led the defense of Britain against invaders. So the story of Arthur describing his magic sword, named Excalibur, and his trusted knights. So King Arthur is a warrior, a knight, and a king who killed giants, witches, and monsters, and lead a group of fearless warriors on many adventures. He is also known for his Knights of the Round Table and uniting the people of his land. So this is one of the best example of heroic prose. And then we're going to proceed to prose poetry. Poetry written in prose form. The prose poem is a creative writing format that combines elements of the poetic form and the prose form. So I have here the example of um, poetic uh, poetry or the prose poetry. Stopping by Woods in a Snowy Evening by Robert Frost. So we're going to spot the difference between pure poetry and prose poetry. So as we observe, pure poetry consists of rhyme and rhythm, while prose poetry does not consist of rhyme and rhythm and it is written in a paragraph form. So prose poetry does not follow specific structure, but both pure poetry and prose poetry have the ability to express ideas. We have here another example of prose poetry. So as you observe, the poem Be Drunk does not follow metrical structure, does not have rhyme and rhythm, that does not consist of artistic languages. So this is the structure of prose poetry. It follows natural patterns of speech and uses plain languages. So as we already discussed about the prose and the four types of prose, we're going to ask what are the importance of prose. So the importance of prose is to convey an idea, deliver information, or tell a story in a straightforward manner. Second is to avoid unnecessary words. Third is get thoughts clearly and effectively as possible, and uses natural language for immediate understanding of the text. So in summary, prose is a style of writing that does not follow a strict structure of rhyming or meter. Prose uses normal grammatical structures. Elements of prose writing include regular grammar and paragraph structures that organize ideas, foregoing more stylistic and aesthetic forms of writing found in poetry and lyrics. The prose can include normal dialogue, speeches, novels, news reports, etc. Prose is distinguished from poetry which uses line breaks and has meter that tends to defy normal grammar rules. So again, we have types of prose. We have non-fictional prose, fictional prose, heroic prose, and prose poetry. That's all. Thank you for listening.